This is Unit 5.7, which is the last unit in this chapter, and it continues to discuss triangle inequalities. Before we get into triangles, let's do a quick review of how to solve for inequalities. Basically, everything about inequalities is the same except when you deal with multiplication and division of a negative number. Again, the only exception is multiplication and division of a negative number. So let's look at the first one. If I have to solve this, I would have to subtract 2x on both sides. So I would have then I add 18 on both sides, so I have 5x is greater than 21. Notice that I'm carrying the greater sign there, and finally I divide 5 on both sides. My answer should be x is greater than 7. Right? And in the second example, I can do the same thing. I can subtract 8x because I don't like to deal with negative numbers. And next, if I, on this side, I have 2x minus 15. So if I add 15 on both sides, so this would be 2x and that would be gone. And this stays the same, and that's 22. So now I can divide 2. So I should have x is here. And if I want to rewrite it, I have to flip it, which is x is less than 11. Okay, now some of you, be careful, some of you may solve it this way. You are going to subtract, you're used to having the x term on the left hand side, so you're subtracting 10x, and on the left hand side that will leave you with negative 2x plus 7 is greater than negative 15. And now if you subtract 7 from both sides, you can end up with negative 2x is greater than negative 22. Here's the trick. When you need to, now you need to divide negative 2 on both sides. When you divide negative 2, you have to flip. You divide a negative number, you flip the sign, and that gives you the exact same answer as what I did earlier. So different approaches, but you have to make sure that in the blue ink you have to remember to flip the sign. Okay, so finish the following two, and I'll give you the answer here just for your convenience. You should reach these two final answers. So let's look at how we deal with triangle inequalities. Here, it's said that if the sides of a triangle have the following length, find all possible values of x. So you're asked for all possible values, meaning you're asked to find a range. So how do we deal with this? If you recall, when we talk about triangle inequalities, we have to know which side is the longest, which side is the shortest. And since you don't know, you have to anticipate all possibilities. So this obviously is a triangle. You have A, B, and C. So it's triangle A, B, C. If it's helpful, graph it out on the side. So you may have, if I see if I can graph it, it's a little easier to see. A, B, C. So I may have AB plus BC, right? And if that's a triangle, that has to be greater than AC. That's what we learned from the last unit. Or if AB plus AC has to be greater than BC, assuming BC now is the third side. Or AB can be the third and the longest side. And I would have AC plus BC is greater than AB. So now the rest of it is just algebra. So AB is 4x plus 25. BC is 3x minus 2. And that has to be greater than 9x minus 5. And let's see, if you solve this, you should come out to be x is less than 14. Same thing here, AB plus AC. AB is 4x plus 25. AC is 9x minus 5. that has to be greater than BC, which is 3x minus 2. If you do your algebra, I think it's negative 2.2. This one, AC plus BC, so AC is 9x minus 5 plus 3x minus 2 has to be greater than 4x plus 25. And if I have that, I should be x is greater than 4. So here are three possibilities. X has to be less than 14 if I do it on a number line. S has to be less than 14, greater than 4, so greater than 4, and greater than negative 2.2, right? So the part that satisfies all three conditions, in other words, has all three lines in them, is this part on the number line. So look at the numbers less than 4. Those are the numbers that only has two lines here. The numbers greater than 14, that only has two lines, but only inside this part that's overlapping all three. So that's our range here, is x is greater than 4 and less than 14. Okay, so give number 6 a try. Your final answer should be x is greater than 13 and less than 21. It's the exact same example. So, but think about it for a moment conceptually, that you're asked to prove, you're asked to find the possible range. In other words, find the range of length for any of these threes so that this can become a triangle. And the only thing can make that happen is when the sum of two sides is greater than the longest side, according to what we learned last unit. So that's the theory behind it. This is just more algebraic practice with that. Numbers 6 and 7 are exactly the same, so I'm going to skip 7. I should give you the answer on 7, actually. 7 is between 8 and 18. That's the 7th answer. So number 8, list the sides of triangle JKL in order from least to greatest if the angle measures are these crazy algebraic expressions. So now we're asked to list the length of the sides, but we're only given information about the angle. Oops, sorry about that. So if I have a triangle that's JKL, so I have to find out these three angle measures, right? And in order to know the sides of in order to know which side is the longest, all I know is that the largest angle faces the longest side. So in order to know the angle measures, by now you are all old pro. You add all three interior angles together. You solve for x, and they should add up to 180. You solve for x, so that's 15x. Yep. And so if you do that, x should equal 13. If x equals 13, you plug in the equations for j should come out to be 32, and angle measure for k is 109 degrees, and the angle measure for L is 29 degrees, right? So in that way, if I have k being the longest, k is right here. So if that's 119, that's my longest side is JL. So JL is my longest side. My smallest angle is L. This is 29. So JK is my shortest, and I'm asked to go from least to greatest. So KL is the segment that's in between. So that's my final answer there. Okay, so number 9 is exactly the same. Pause the video and finish that on your own. And number 10, I believe, is our last problem. Number 10 is the opposite. So number 10 says, list the angles of the triangle RST. So if I have a triangle RST, now I have the angle measures here. And then it says that here's something we haven't seen. The perimeter is 78. So it's really literally the same deal. So I'm adding all the sides together. And that equals 78. And if you solve for that, your x should come out to be 4. And then you plug it back in. So your RS should be 5x plus 7, so 4 times that's 27. Your RT should be 31, so that's 27, that's 31. Your ST is ST is 9x, so it's ST is 20. So this is 20. Now we're listing from least to the greatest. We're looking at angles. So my smallest is 20, so angle R. Next one is 27, so it will be angle T facing 27. 31 is angle S. That's my final answer. So again, this is the exact same thing except that we're going from side length to angles rather than from angle to side length. Okay, so I will see you guys in class. Take care. Bye-bye.